Good afternoon.
Yeah. So good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of the Department of Fashion Management Studies, National Institute of Fashion Technology, New Delhi, I, Jasmine Dixit, welcome you to the webinar on the evolving trends in fashion consumption post-COVID. The current situation has no parallel that we can draw in the near past. At this time, the entire industry and all the stakeholders are immersed in trying to understand the present situation and salvage it to their best advantage. We are incredibly grateful to our distinguished speakers for making time to be a part of the webinar and agreeing to share with us their valuable insights on the topic. It's my privilege to introduce our panel of speakers, which comprises of Mr. Bakar Naqvi, founder and CEO, Upriver E-Commerce, Mr. Nikhil Singh, head EBO business, United Colors of Benetton, Mr. Siddharth Pal, marketing head Under Armour, Mr. Berry Singh, COO and co-founder of Ace Turtle, Ms. Fadia Meher, General Manager, Pantaloons, ABFRL, Mr. Abhay Gupta, Founder, Promoter, and CEO, Luxury Connect and Luxury Connect Business School, Mr. Himanshu Mahajan, Business Head, Flying Machine, Mr. Anshuman Bhaskar, Director Buying, Alan Solly, ABFRL. Our moderator for the session, Dr. Sivichan K. Matthew of FMS NIFT, New Delhi. Without further ado, I would request Professor Sivichan Matthew to take this session ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Jasmine, for introducing the panelists. I think we should get to the business. COVID has become a reality, and we are learning to live with COVID. So is consumption, and what we do every minute is consumption. And when you move to fashion consumption, it is not just give you the clothing, but also gives you the pleasures. The pleasure of browsing, the pleasure of bargaining, the pleasure of buying, and so forth. So it's common knowledge that fashion consumption is a multi-stage process and not a singular behavior. These can be broadly classified into pre-consumption, or post-consumption, and of course, in between you have the active or passive consumption. The search efforts, that is store hopping to window shopping to cleaning up what you have bought to the item that you bought being the most favorite item, to the rest time it has in the closet, to its disposal. I mean, simply put, the discovery to disposal journey of a garment perhaps it takes as shorter time as just one wear, or it can be even longer depending on the meaning attached to the product that you have bought, as well as the significance and functions of the garment that we bought. So in this sense, fashion consumption occurs when you go window shopping at apparel stores, when you read about fashion in magazines, or where you watch a fashion show on television. I think the COVID times have given adequate time to actually spend a lot of time in front of the magazines and TV, but then the consumers had a real tough time in getting these items for consumption because of store closures, lockdown, as well as non-delivery of non-essential items. Now, as we know, clothing purchase is a very powerfully pleasurable and addictive activity. Pleasure, kicks in just by observing what you're seeing, and there are, of course, there are pleasure centers in your brain that activates, the nuclear ambience, and that gives you pleasure, and also the medial prefrontal cortex of the brain that gives you that cost benefit analysis, as well as the insula that process the pain of paying for what you have bought. We have just been through that times, and the consumers have been experiencing a lot of what you call lack of pleasure or more pain on that account. But I think in the last 2 weeks or the last 1 month, online and offline consumption, a purchase has been resumed. So the panel is going to look at how this has been in the industry. So to begin with, I invite Mr. Bakr Naqvi, who is the founder and CEO of Apriva e-commerce, to lay the overall picture of how the market is behaving after it has opened up. Over to you, Bakr.
I hope I am audible to all.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everybody. This is Bakr. My understanding of the apparel market today and going forward is not a very rosy picture for most retailers today, because the understanding that I have is that at least 30 to 40% shrinkage will be there in the market. So apparel market, which currently stands at about $80 billion or so, I see an impact of at least about $20 to $25 billion in terms of consumption. So a huge impact in that sense coming in the market. And while the stores are beginning to reopen, I also see that with a bit of caution, because we are nowhere closer to the peak of COVID. So there could be a second wave, and you never know when the markets are closed again. So I think we are treading with a bit of caution. We should tread with a bit of caution in this market. And I think the post-COVID world is really not going to be a stop and go kind of a thing. It's not it's something that will change the way we have been retailing for quite some time. I see this to be at least 18-month to a 24-month impact on retail, not just something that will go off in a year. And companies are already now talking about changing their balance sheets to adjust to the COVID. So that's the overall market that I see. I also see that consumer spending will be impacted dramatically over the next couple of at least a year. If this even if this ends, the COVID situation improves and the entire pandemic ends in the next 2 to 3 months, I think a lot of jobs have been cut. Retail being the second largest employer in the country, I think the impact on across sectors, across the entire sectors of retail would be pretty heavy, especially when you talk about apparel retail and within that also fashion retail. So if I now look at within apparel, you kind of segregate between essential apparel and so to say aspirational apparel or non-essentials. Essentials may or may not be as much impacted, but anything to do with fashion or discretionary spend, I think a lot of those would be dramatically spending and affected. Also, what I see is that within this, brands which have been more established will be able to survive better. Brands which have a consumer connect will still do fairly well as compared to brands which are newer. I also see that continuously, I mean, for the past couple of years, if you see how consumer aspirations have changed and how people have behaved in terms of their shopping pattern, we did see a continuous trend of premiumization. Every time you purchase a product, you wanted to buy a little more premium product, you wanted to upgrade. I see this trend actually reversing in the next 12 months, where people will downtrade and will see value and be more discount driven. So while I understand that a lot of retailers may or may not have the wherewithal to kind of give more discounts, but given the situation of the market and the cash flow issues that would impact the market, uh, retail all being a not so high margin kind of a business, I see a lot of pressure on retailers to liquidate stocks. So we would see massive discounts coming up, as well as people down trading and going to more private label kind of players where they seek more value. Brand premiums may come down for a little bit because people would be more interested in getting more value out of the dollar spent rather than looking at the brand premium at this point of time. So my understanding is that a lot of the value retailers like Max and Reliance Trends and Pantaloons may do fairly well, whereas brands will face some pressures, specifically the more top-end brands and so on. I really see three kinds of plays or trends evolving in retail. One is as the stores open up. So one is safety or hygiene. The other is convenience or comfort, and the third is frugality of consumers. So when you look at stores, it really would be about consumer confidence of going back to the store. So while on one side I would want to wish that there is some bit of a revenge shopping and people, for example, when China opened up a few stores, whether it is Levi's is opening of stores or whether it's Hermes doing a phenomenal sale on the first day and the largest ever sale or single day sale. There is some bit of revenge shopping that might come in certain categories. But overall, I see consumers becoming more frugal in the next 6 to 8 months time and becoming more safety conscious when they go to the stores. So a lot of stores are now looking at various kinds of technologies for their trial rooms, various kind of technologies to keep safety and security in their stores. And also, lastly, in terms of the entire convenience, comfort for shopping, I see the omni-channel, which till date has been really more of a word and a buzzword, so to say, within the retail sector, really becoming a reality. And I think Berry would throw more light. They're working and doing great work in the omni-channel structure. But I think that's something that I see doing phenomenally well in the next 2 years. Retailers who were till now talking of omni-channel in a very frivolous way, I would say, or now would have to become more serious on this. I also see that across retail, approximately 25 to 30%, or maybe even one third of these stores would shut down over the next year and a half. The huge
Yeah.
issues in terms of
Okay.
the cash flows. And
Yeah.
I think those would impact retail in a big way.
Yeah, Bakar, thank you for that introductory note. And what we see is that of course, the trend was consumption of, the fast fashion was in the trend. And now people from a conspicuous consumption to a frugal consumption is what we are trying to see. Now, also you predicted maybe, even in India also, there could be a few stores of, closing down. Let's hear from Nikhil as to, since the stores have reopened, what is the type of consumer sentiments that you see on the ground, Mr. Nikhil?
Hello, everyone. I will agree with Mr. Naqvi what he said about the deteriorating consumer sentiments and the challenging times ahead. We would want to believe that it is an unprecedented event, and it has impacted every aspects of every business in some or the other way, and we being no exception to it. Moreover, in the business in which we are in today, it is an extremely consumer centric and a consumer focused business. In a business which is a consumer focused business, the impact is more visible, and it can be quantified. Before I get into the exact details of it, I would want to also put a point across that what this COVID has done unknowingly is that it has actually changed the preferences of the consumers, and also it has changed the preferences of of each one of us, the way we were living our life earlier and the way we would want to live life going forward. And basis those changes, the consumer buying behavior has changed, and we see that a drastic shift happening at our stores. While everybody would agree with the fact that the consumer behavior is influenced by our cultural factors, we as human beings are involved in a lot of group activities like traveling, tourism, shopping, religion, entertainment. Festivals, rituals are an integral part of our overall lifestyle, impacting the overall consumers' sentiments, and it is impacting the overall consumers' buying behavior. As we slide towards reopening of our stores, so our almost 60% of our UCP stores are now operational. We see a drastic change in consumers' buying behavior. So while the consumer sentiments still remains weak, consumer are still unsure of the fact that how things will unfold in the coming months. We do see limited footfalls. Now, limited footfalls is, it also has a very different approach when you see a store in a mall and when you see a store on a high street, wherein high street is still, for us, the high streets sales have moved up to a level of 70-75% of the pre-COVID times at malls. It is still hovering around 20-25% of the pre-COVID numbers. We also see that because of additional precautionary measures what we take at our stores, which are non-negotiable, the overall cost of running the store has gone up. So it has also impacted the overall cost structure of the store, which was was under tremendous stress. We also see a shift in the overall work culture and the overall behavior of the consumers. Now, basis this shift, we see a very different consumer buying behavior. Say, for example, whenever the consumer used to come to our store initially, we used to see the top to bottom ratio for our store was around 2.5 pieces of top to 1 pieces of bottom. It has suddenly become 5:1. So the brands who are very top driven will see their sales not so hugely impacted by this pandemic. So for us, it is so we see that little benefit in terms of overall sales at the store. But yes, we do see that the change in the overall life cycle and the overall work culture has impacted the shopping behavior. So we see a huge movement of knitwear. We see a huge movement of comfort wear. Kids as a category is growing in high double-digit number for us. So it has the contribution of kids merchandise for our stores used to be around 25-28%. It has moved to a number which is close to 40% now. Now,
yeah,
with these impact, the way UCB as a brand, or the way most of the like-minded brands are coping up, is that we do see that the footfalls are limited at our stores. So we have most of the brands have decided that we will go back to the consumers in whichever way we would want to do. So a lot of e-cataloging is happening. A lot of home shopping is happening. A lot of home delivery of product is happening. While we see that the overall footfalls are low, so the shift has been from retail productivity has shifted to a per consumer productivity, which is happening at the store, so that at least we are able to make the ends meet.
Yeah, that's a very good set of update.
Yes.
On the ground. Actually, I will come back to you once we take the discussion forward, because I think that's the space on which Mr. Barry Singh, from Yaster is actually enabling companies to actually shift over from the physical model to the online
Right.
model, and he has been enabling many brands to actually do that. In fact, maybe perhaps one of the pioneer and leading omnichannel experts in the in the world, and he also has a physical retail experience. So, Mr. Berry, you heard Nikhil talking about consumers moving from malls to high street and footfalls coming low, and then you need to actually make the product available to the consumers, and that's something that is omni-channel fulfillment is something which is consumer expectation. So, what is it that you see overall, from the consumption scene and in the pre-COVID to the current times? Over to you, Berry.
Yeah. So I think what Bakar and Nikhil were talking is not new. Everybody in the retail industry understands that it's affected all of us. But what we see as a big shift is the whole role of store is going to change, because earlier what we were seeing as brands opening more and more stores, there's obviously going to be more sensibility into it. There'll be lesser stores that are going to open from the brand side, but the way the stores are operating is going to change, because these stores will no longer be servicing the walk-in customer. They will be servicing and becoming like mini fulfillment centers. And we as a company, for example, which has been in the foremost company in terms of omni-channel space when we launched in 2014. I remember my pitches with brands, and trying to convince them and be able to tell them what omni-channel is all about. And today we get almost daily 1 or 2 calls from brands and saying, how can you enable our digital transformation? Because there is a big shift that is happening over here. Brands are looking at new channels. So we in fact launched something called contactless commerce, because we believe there are going to be 2 changes in consumers. One, the customer who's going to come to the store will be extremely varied in terms of trying the products, using any other available infrastructure in the store which is being used by somebody else. That will be one set of audience. There'll be another set of audience which will refrain from coming to stores. Now, if your customers are not going to come to stores, and most of the retailers or brand people who are over here will confirm to me that today, if you compare from a pre-COVID time to now, their mall sales for the last 10 days that have opened also are at 10 to 20% of what it was. In fact, stores on high streets are doing much better. They're at about trending at 30 to 40%. Whereas if I look at the brands which are on our platform, which are using omni-channel or doing e-commerce, and I look at my January numbers, which were one of the highest that brands achieved on our platform, brands are doing at about 120% of their business, because they have evolved. They are trying to reach out to their customers through newer channels like Instagram. WhatsApp commerce has been a big hit. Myntra started its end of season sale yesterday, and I think we clocked the highest ever numbers. So apart, if you look at retail, a lot of us are in the retail industry. So definitely all of us have gone through some salary cuts, there have been some job losses or whatever. But the consumer at large today, though there is a definitely, a mindset, a mind issue that's happening in terms of, I don't need to purchase, but there is a big shift that is happening towards the whole e-commerce space. Now, when you move towards e-commerce, you can not only just service from your own warehouses, but you need to service from stores. So one project that we are working with all the marketplaces today in India is connecting the stores of the brands to the marketplaces. And why we are doing it is because warehouses are obviously located at, outside the city limits. Stores are located in city centers, closer to the customer. If a customer who's residing in Delhi places an order on Flipkart, can you service within 2 hours? Can a hyper local guy service within 2 hours? Why does you even want the consumer to come to your stores? Why do you need so many stores? So I think brands are going to relook at their strategy. What's also going to happen is this whole crisis, though it's short term, might be short term in nature, we are all hoping it, but brands need to reimagine their whole strategy around their business. It's no longer going to be silos of channels, that this is a retail channel and this is an e-commerce channel. This has to cut across different channels. It will shake the weak, but I think it will embolden the stronger channels and brands. So I see a big shift which is coming over here.
Yeah, I think that the role of stores are changing certainly, and a lot of technology and enablement is required to actually make retail happen. I think this also supports the use of Bakar and Nikhil, has given that. Another thing that is the COVID has created is more of time at home, and that is the need for actually consuming more of fitness products and finding out more time for exercising and so forth. So can we take a quick look at what is happening with the sportswear sector from Mr. Siddharth Pal, who's from Ahmed. Over to you, Siddharth.
Sure, sir. So, I would like to just take a step back from what we're talking and like to talk about habits. What we've seen, there is a trend change in how consumers are looking at habits. In this lockdown, what has changed as the habits have been evolved quite a lot. We are now looking at more of content wherever we can possible. We have shifted to paying more money on subscriptions that we never used to think of. So a trend on consumption of internet has evolved in a much bigger space than we ever thought of. And we have actually moved forward what was going to happen in another 5 years. Consumers have started to buy, look at content, learn, educate, listen a lot in this lockdown. So what we've noticed then that the same shift has happened when it comes to fitness as well. A lot of people have now changed their focus from going to the gyms, which they cannot in the next 6-8 months, and started, working out from home. And we've seen a lot of subscriptions coming to our apps. We've seen a lot of subscriptions coming to our content that we provide from a work from home point of view. So what people have done, they know that, they're not going to go out and eat. So they might as well work out and be healthy. I think that's a predominant habit shift that we've seen a lot within the consumers. Plus, I think a lot depends on the brand and its target audience. A lot of people said in the earlier conversation that consumers that will lead to deal churners and will lead to value-seeking products. But I think audience clarity is much more than ever before. Brands need to recognize their core audience to deliver the best and premium products, because we definitely see a potential in our premium audience buying into our products. What we've seen is that our business on e-commerce platform, on Myntra, Amazon, and Flipkart have jumped quite a lot because of people wanting to get a lot of training and gym wear at their homes. Kids have been training a lot. Grandparents have been training a lot. Mom and dad have been training together. So it's a more cohesive, workout or a more cohesive solution that we need from a brand point of view. And I think defining an audience is very critical these times, because you can't go for a machine coffee. You need to be a sniper and point to the right audience that you really see, and they will buy into your product. Three things that we see how the shift is happening. Digitization is critical from a marketing standpoint. We've seen that consumers are consuming digital in a very, very different way, and brands need to see both coming forward in terms of how consumer trend is going to evolve each month. We are not looking at a quarter or a year. We should look at how consumer evolve each month, because the lockdown is going to increase and consumers are looking at newer forms of digital avenues to express their views or listen to people or express their own opinions. The second critical thing, and Perry pointed out and a lot of other people pointed out, is technology. We are now also moving into the omni-channel environment from a store point of view. That's very critical to deliver products from the store as well. And surprisingly, we haven't seen that quite a fall in our store sales, because of the fact that a lot of people were wanting to buy fitness gear. So we did a dipstick a month back in terms of asking like 500 people across fitness trainers. The two things that they're keen on buying, people who like to train or work out, are one, gym equipments, and two, fitness gear, because they know that apart from working from home and doing calls, the second best thing that to do is remaining healthy, because that's what COVID has taught us, right? So a lot has gone into that, and a lot of people are, going for that purchase. The third thing, which is critical for every brand and for us as well, is sustainability. We are now moving from a lifestyle and technology based model to a more sustainable based model, and you will see a major trend going forward in the next 2 to 3 years where brands will become sustainable across. And I'm not just talking about apparel and brands, I'm talking about technological consumer brands. A lot of them will dive into sustainability. We've already started a program in the US where we've made a team who are just focusing on sustainable channels and to drive that road. So I think three things: digitalization, technology, and sustainability are going to drive the coming trends.
Yeah, that's a visible trend that you have noticed, and especially on the sustainability front. Yes, most of the brands would, they need to align with sustainability and development goals, and as time goes, most of the brands would be glad to be sustainable, and there is no other way about it. But then I think your point on the increased upsurge in subscription and also the demand for equipments and gears and all not worth to listen. I think now we are moving on to the Fadia, who's the lawn member from that gender. Which she's perhaps we would like to hear from her. What has been the trend on the department store format, and also I hear questions from the audience coming on, happening on women's wear and especially on the ethnic wear. So over to you, Fadia. Your audio has.
So it's a phenomenal increase for kids wear, and also for women's wear. What we are seeing is complete and utter focus of the consumer towards comfort, which leads them to buy sleepwear. For within women's western, sleepwear is the biggest contributor for the people. So whether it's t-shirts, whether it's pajamas, or whether it's nighties. So right now there is absolutely no focus on buying bottom wear. Barring sleepwear bottom wear, there is no focus on buying bottom wear. So our bottom wear is seeing a very slight movement, which is not even worth mentioning. So the thing is, because this is also happening, because there's a lot of fit and trial issues related with bottom wear, and the consumer is not venturing there. Many of the states have their own policies around fit and trials. So what is happening is that, like, Maharashtra doesn't allow trials as of now, while in Delhi, if the trials are allowed, you'll have to keep something for like 24 hours before anybody else can try it out. So this is deterring the consumers from moving towards bottom wear. Primarily in our formal wear section, we are not seeing a spike in sale at all. It's not moving to that extent, as Nikhil pointed out in his view. So what is happening is, majorly whatever is being bought within formal wear is top wear, wherein people can showcase, where people are just being seen, upper half of their body is seen within the webcam meetings, etc. So that's where the whole focus is. So primarily net in a departmental store and within Pantaloons, what we are seeing is the movement for knits and lower price points. That's the primary focus of the consumers right now, because of the current economic scenario. And this, for the next 6 months, the focus might be towards more of comfort and ease rather than going out. Looking at it, I'll say that come festival, because festival is one of the biggest seasons for Indians to celebrate. So come festival season in September, starting September, October, we are seeing that, anticipating that probably by that the situation might mellow down a little bit and people might be willing to come out and buy something which is, more of going out. So the current going out brands are not seeing the traction. It's majorly lower price points which are seeing the
Yeah, that's a good update on what's happening on at the department store level as well as in the menswear category. One of the major things that is coming out is that even the um, EBO format as well as in the department format, I think one of the category that is seeing an upsurge is kids wear. Nikhil also mentioned about the ratios for the tops to bottom ratio has been changing, and you see a lot of bottom wear actually becoming less demanded, less consumed, product, and also more preference for comfort. Now, before we move on to the other two apparel-related discussions, I think let's see, we look at what's happening on the luxury front. And Abhay Gupta, quietly has released one of his book, the first book called the Incredible India Luxury Bazaar. And Abhay Gupta, can you brief us as what is happening on the luxury consumption space? Over to you, Abhay.
Thank you, Dr. Sivichan. Thank you very much for inviting me. Hello, everyone. Hello, fellow panelists. Hello, audience. So Sivichan has been kind enough to ask me to share some of the findings of our research on coronavirus and impact on Indian luxury. So I must admit that most of the points are fairly common to what others like Berry or Nikhil or Himanshu has spoken, or Fadia has spoken, etc. So if I try to sum up in terms of what is really happening and try to focus on fashion rather than luxury at a larger space, then I think a couple of factors which are overlapping here is one is intervention of retail tech in a very, very large manner. So luxury retail tech intervention at a pace where Shanghai Fashion Week is completely a 3D avatar based. Today, Spotify is allowing you to sell apparels and accessories in a 3D format. Yesterday, I was hearing someone where the entire fashion show as well as the clothing would be digitized and it would be on a 3D. There's virtual trial room which is being introduced already in the luxury business. At the same time, we also have a brand like Chanel which says I'm not going to go on to the digital space and I'm going to continue on to my physical space itself. So it's a bit of a debate, but I would say that the favor is more tilted towards bringing in technology at a major pace. So BOPIS, which was earlier remaining more to, let's say, FMCG category or fashion category, is now coming towards luxury, where people are buying online and picking up in store on the store. And as Berry said, that stores are probably going to become mini service centers or mini fulfillment centers. Yet the layouts are being changed to accommodate the social distancing norms and the other routine matters of social distancing. I don't even want to touch upon those because it's common knowledge today. But direct to consumer and do it yourself is a trend which is coming majorly into homegrown brands. As Fadia said, that private labels are coming in, and we are seeing a lot of thanks also to the racial discrimination movement that has started. So a lot of DTC movement is taking place because of that, and there's a entire hashtag movement on support black designers, etc., etc. Uh, Conscious consumption over conspicuous consumption is something which is coming in a big way. So people don't want to be seen carrying big brands. So brands like a Bottega Veneta or a Prada or a Christian Dior, which are, let's say, more subtle luxury, is the winner in this, and louder luxury like a Gucci or a Versace or a Botto are suffering because of that. At the same time, circular economy is becoming a bit of a, let's say, it's coming out of the drawing board, and what people were skimming the surface when it came to sustainability, they are deep diving into that, and they are, so they're going beyond what Adidas says, that I'll make plastic shoes from ocean plastic shoes, etc. And people are really looking at how can we have sustainable luxury. So circular economy is becoming a big wave. What is really suffering in the luxury space is probably going to be the rental luxury, reusable luxury, or perhaps sharing economy. So sharing economy is going to take while you have Marks and Spencer also now saying that they will have a rack especially for reused clothes or rented clothes or something. But I believe that the scare of personal hygiene is going to keep people away from trying to use something which has already been used by somebody else. So no amount of sanitation, no amount of let's say trying to clean up the clothes or dry cleaning is going to convince a customer to buy something which has been used earlier. Although when it comes to accessories, perhaps the rental luxury or reusable luxury is going to pick up in a larger kind of a manner. So logoless luxury, rental luxury suffering, fast fashion is going to see a very large dip, and that is quite visible by Zara trying to close some 1,200 stores, etc., moving more towards e-commerce, as is quite visible. Recycle, upcycle is becoming a trend, and we have denim lines which are only doing brands which are going to be recycled or upcycled. And I think there we as Indians can take a cake, because the story of a t-shirt is very famous for us Indians, that we buy a t-shirt, wear it for parties, then wear it at home, then wear it at night, and then it becomes a pocha. So that's the story of a Indian t-shirt. So I think that is something which is going to come back in a major way. And as Fadia said, so loungewear and bottom wear is going more towards relaxed wear, and it is the upper wear which is really moving. So those are some of the observations that I would say are also common to the luxury business. But as I think Fadia mentioned that, or Berry mentioned that Insta sale, so social commerce is coming in a big way, and China, more and more community commerce is happening in China, even when it comes to luxury. So those are some of the trends I would say are fast picking on. In India, the malls, the luxury malls have just begun to happen. And if I do a first-hand check, then I would say that there are footfalls, but those are the scared footfalls. They are very hesitant footfalls. Is sales happening? No. So private sales that was happening earlier in luxury continues to happen even now. So I would not say that, unlike other malls which are reporting high number of footfalls, it's not the same in Emporio or even in Mumbai. So there are hesitant demands towards luxury fashion. Of course, formal wear is taking a beating. There are no stilettos selling or no formal shoes selling or suits selling, etc., etc. So which is quite obvious, and what doesn't need to explain that. So those are some of the trends. Of course, I can go on to the other sectors, but I believe this panel is more fashion specific. So I'll probably rest my case there, Dr. Matthew.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Abhay. That was a very clean update on what's happening on the fashion industry. Now, please, let's look at what are the trends happening in the menswear category. So we go to Himanshu to check what are the trends that are visible in the menswear sector. Over to you, Himanshu.
Thank you, Mr. Matthew. Himanshu this side. I represent a brand called Flying Machine. So I just wanted to cover a few points that what we saw in the last 4 weeks of opening up our store. So a couple of interesting insights that we are getting it. First is that the stores of Flying Machine in tier 2 and tier 3 cities are doing very promising sales. And as I say, our pre-COVID numbers to now numbers is almost 70-80%. So we have covered a lot of from tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And what we're also seeing is that the top wear is selling more. And bottoms earlier, it was selling less in the first 2 weeks of our opening up, but now it has picked up and it's almost, let's say, 60% of pre-COVID numbers. But the interesting thing that coming in from the consumer behavior is that the denims that they want to pick up is the denims which are value addition products, right? And value addition in denims means like anti-microbial finish, anti-static finish, and the denims which are more comfortable to wear. And from an MRP perspective, I didn't see that consumers are coming and asking for the lower price point products. They are okay to buy fashion. They are okay to buy MRP, higher MRP products also. But the very interesting thing is that these guys are not asking for discounts. So typically, it's month June when everyone goes on EOSS, because consumer normally comes and asks for discount. But today, the consumer that we are getting are lesser in numbers, but they are not the discount seekers. Second thing, what we are noticing from our store sales is our PPTs, ATV, and versions have gone up by more than 30%, right? And also, what as a brand we want to do from next season onward is not to follow the typical fashion cycle which starts like a year in advance. So today we want to work very closely to the season. Don't want to pre-commit our numbers to the vendors and pre-commit on something which we are not very sure about. So what we want to do is we want to create small capsules and try to plug in that every month into our market, right? So that we are very lean on inventory and we know exactly what the consumer is buying and is what we can refill or replenish from the fashion cycle. And also what we are seeing is that there will be a lot of need for a value added product or I would say a sustainable product. So on that area, we as a brand are working with a lot of chemical factories around the world who are trying to give us a lot of interesting finishes which can come on denims, because this is where my bread and butter lies, right? So we'll come up with those small, interesting capsules by July or by first week of August, and we'll be doing a lot of marketing around it. So let's see how consumer behaves. But today, online and offline sales are coming back to track, but I think it will take some time depending on the cities in which your stores are present. Metros today are taking a beat, but tier 2, tier 3 cities are talking very good numbers. And the similar trend we are seeing it from the online channel also, where Flying Machine is fairly present and our contribution is very high. There also we are seeing the similar trend. So there's nothing very different from offline to offline. It's, I think, more or less similar.
Yeah. Yeah, I think again you agree that the sales of Topware has been going up, and so is the case with value-based assessment products.
Yeah.
Let's hear from Shiva and Bhaskar about, yeah, did say about the kidswear category, has been the major beneficiary after the open the stores. Do you also see the same trends with so over to you, Ansman?
Thank you, Dr. Matthew. Good afternoon. Some panelists said that kidswear has been doing a little better. The good news is, indeed, it has been doing far better than probably menswear and women's wear as well. The good news is that parents are celebrating kids' birthdays with as much enthusiasm as they were doing earlier. Probably they are compensating for a lot of other things which they've not been able to do for kids through shopping. So birthdays continues to drive enough consumption. Having said that, I think there are key shifts which we all thought would happen. I think due to COVID, those shifts have come much faster and come with a far greater impact than what we anticipated. The shifts being how online has become so important, and the brands and organizations which were still invested a lot in offline compared to online, the shifts for them and our brands being no very different has been tremendous. We expect online business to probably double up or maybe go 3 times from what it was, let's say, last year. Similarly, when we look at shifts from stores in malls or department stores as well to standalone stores, the performance of standalone stores have been far better. I think they have come close to 70 or 80% of the likely sales pre-COVID. We also see that generally consumer is looking at comfort far more than anything else. Once the safety part has been addressed, whether it's safety of shopping in store or even safety of the package which they receive from online retailers. Once the safety of product is there, the shift towards how comfort is going to be the differentiator in the product which they will buy to a product which they will not even consider right now. Hence, we see prominence of knitwear, products which provide comfort through stretch, and not only on performance of that product while the consumer is using it, but even the maintenance of that product. So we see that products with lower maintenance requirement, whether it's easy wash or it's easy to iron, those are again products which are going to be preferred. We also see that in terms of geographies, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 are much lesser impacted. We see fair bit of revival of buying there. Consumption has been close to what it was pre-COVID. Compared to that, metros and tier 1 continue to struggle. I think that's another thing which will at least for a duration of 3 to 6 months continue. Other thing which we find categories like maternity wear, infant wear, and we are getting into infant wear a bit. Again, are the categories which are not impacted much. Beyond all these, I think the type of requirement and the type of pressure that we see on forecasts, the forecast which used to be, as I think Himanshu said, or somebody amongst the panelists said, a fashion cycle of 9 months to 12 months is something which doesn't seem feasible at all right now. It's a month-on-month cycle of creation. Whatever is selling is what we got to produce. Hence, there is a lot of pressure on getting these trends quick, responding to it, and doing it month-on-month instead of having any season like spring, summer, or autumn, winter. I think that's again something which is going to be past for us. Largely, I would say these would be the key trends that I could think of. In a phased manner, I look at another month or so for the survive phase to continue. I think we have seen 3 months of survive. In a month's time, I would probably expect all of us to look at revive phase, which probably would last for another 1 or 2 quarters, and post that, I would expect somewhere around same time or maybe a quarter earlier that teams which have been able to do the survive and revive part well would have a big canvas to strive as well. That would be my take on it.
Yeah, that's a very good positive note on the things to happen, and good to hear that the kidswear category is again showing, and maybe that's again yes, the body structure, the growth of children are faster than compared to other. So there is a need element as well as also there is a love element involved there. I think we have largely covered most of the sectors, men's, women's, kids, and sports, and as well as luxury. There is one question that is waiting for you, and I would like if Barry could take that question. And that's in terms of startup businesses, what suggestion would you like to give in terms of reconfiguration of this model in the coming year 2021? And that what are the measures?
Sorry,
that
sir, if you could just repeat the question again.
That's there in the Q&A. In terms of the startup businesses, what suggestion would you like to give in terms of reconfiguration of the business models in the coming year 2021?
So I think overall, if people are looking to come into the whole startup world, I think fashion is a great opportunity, because with every crisis comes some opportunities. Some of the panelists mentioned that how supply chain lead cycles are going to reduce. I think that's a big area to work on. I think optimization, sell-throughs, because what kind of inventory to plan, that will be another area. And I think digitization of the entire retail, whether it's at the supply side, whether it's at consumer side, will play a big role over there. So I think tech should be the backbone of any kind of scalability model that anybody is planning.
Has it been time to the what? Barry?
Yeah.
Olivia there? Or?
So everybody's there.
No, you can't see anyone. Yeah, I don't know what happened. is it? I don't know. It's 4:30. Is it that it's getting over? Or do we need to wind it up? Is there any restriction?
We can pick some questions from the Q&A section. It's right there at the bottom in the.
Over to you. Over to you, Jasmine. There are, if you could look at the Q&A section, there are many questions already posted there. So if you could look at them, and then Barry was actually answering the question. So we missed that. Barry, if you could react to that. Fadi, if you could look at the second question on the ethnic where what's happening, if there is any trend visible. There are questions on technology. In fact, technology has already been discussed in adequate detail because that's a major trend that's happening. So, if you are available, could you address that? What are the business models that you suggest for startup for the 2021?
So I think I was mentioning this that any startup which wants to get into the retail segment now, I think there are few areas. If you look from what some of the panelists were talking about is saying how do we optimizing the inventory part of it to increase our sell-through. That's one area because there is very limited tech that is available right now. Second is everybody is talking of shortening their lead times. So gone are the days when people used to plan 6 months or 9 months in advance. Can there be a fashion model like how Zara and H&M have taught us the way? And that is why these fast fashion guys today rule the world rather than the earlier brands like Esprit, which faltered because of long sales cycles. So there could be a tech play over there itself. I think the third could be in terms of stores, retail optimization metrics, because we've been looking at retail metrics in the same way of ATV, your ABS, your ASPs and all of that. There could be areas over there itself. So I think with every crisis, there are opportunities which can come across, and hence, opportunities for startups to use tech. But that would be my key thing, use tech. Don't do anything which is without tech because that would not be scalable.
Fadia, would you like to comment on the ethnic wear category?
For pantaloons, for pantaloons, pantaloons.com, we are seeing a lot of traction. What we are seeing is the traffic has increased almost nearly by 50% on this website. Earlier we were using whatever was we were manufacturing for our offline stores. We were using it and putting it on Pantaloons. But the way forward is that we will be creating special line for Pantaloons.com also. That's the thought process. It's going to be big in our scheme of things. Also, the fact that Pantaloons, apart from Pantaloons.com, Pantaloon as a store will be also available on various platforms. We were earlier available on Myntra. Now we have gone online with Ajio also, and we are getting a good traffic in those. So we are increasing our footprints, if you call it, in the online space as well. And yes, a new range and everything is in the pipeline for the times to come. Because that's, as Barry is pointing out, digital is the way to go, and that's where the company is also going to invest.
Yeah, I think a couple of major takeaways that we are getting from the discussion that we had is that there are certain categories that are certainly showing some uptrend, and that's loungewear, that's top wear, and also kids wear. There are categories that are not actually growing sales, and of course formal wear. Of course, even in the rented and second hand, there's going to be a challenging times because of the situation. Retail stores, certainly if they have to run stores, then it has to adopt more of technology. And of course, the way to reach the consumer is not stores alone. It is the omnichannel and consumer. And therefore, I think browsing is what is going to be give them that entertainment feeling, not perhaps shopping per se. So these are the major takeaways that I see from the discussions. And I really thank the panelists who participated on this day to share views on fashion consumption trends that are evolving in the COVID times. And on that note, I thank everyone for joining the webinar, and I look forward to having many more such interactions in the future. On that note, thank you so much. Thank you, panelists. With this closing session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Matthew.
Thank you.
Thank you all panelists for all your input, informative.
Thank you.
And if possible, we'll forward you some questions, and if you could take out some time and answer them. We had a great time, and I hope you too had a great time sharing your knowledge with all of us. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Thank you. Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you, Mr. Matthew. Thank you, everybody.
Everyone, thank you.
Thank you.